It's been some time since Good Friday. We have seen the vast effects of the sacrifice Jesus Christ made on the cross. But as many times as this story has been told, some still don't know who Jesus is or what Jesus did all that time ago. So, we've assembled interviews with key people who will tell the story through their own eyes. A story of a triumphant return, a conspiracy, the death of an innocent man, and the completion of God's plan for us.
That was one day I'll never forget. Jesus asked us to go get a steed for him to ride on, and we had no idea how we were going to make this happen for him. He gave us instructions, and of course, everything worked out just like he said it would.
I was just sitting around when, out of nowhere, here comes some men asking if they can have my colt. At first I was like, nah, I don't know y'all. But then they said that the Lord needs them, and I knew. I had just been hearing that Jesus was going around everywhere. So I thought that maybe this is my chance to go see the man for myself. I gave them my colt, and they rode that thing into Jerusalem. It was incredible.
We were there front and center. It was wonderful. It was really a wonderful day.
Jesus came into Jerusalem with his disciples riding on a donkey.
No, it was a colt.
Oh yeah. Anyway, some people laid down clothes on the road. We went with some folks and we got palms together and laid them onto the road and cheered while he rode by saying stuff like
glory in the highest and blessed is the King. It was exciting and amazing.
Jesus got the ultimate welcome into Jerusalem.
He has been healing the sick and teaching all over the land. We had been waiting to meet him, and there he was, right in front of us.
Jesus has been received with a huge ovation from the crowd. Everybody loves seeing Jesus come into Jerusalem. However, when Christ went to the temple, things started to change for the Son of God.
Look, I was just headed out to run some errands, and I was passing by the temple. Had the usual experience there, the sound of lots of people buying things, the smell of dove and livestock.
It was before the festival of unleavened bread. We usually did business in the temple at this time because there were a lot of people in Jerusalem. Handling money was part of the hustle. We did the trades and handled money, and others would sell livestock and doves.
I was just doing what I usually do at the temple, shopping and making sure I had everything for my land. It was a normal day at first, but then it just happened.
I went in because I saw Jesus go in, and I was interested in how he would feel about the temple. By the time I got in there, Jesus was getting some cords together and wrapping them around his hands like a wheel.
I don't know where he came from. All I know is that Jesus started flipping tables and whipping us out of the temple.
Jesus was mad. I never thought I'd see Jesus so mad. Messed up my business. I thought it was supposed to be peaceful.
Girl, I thought he would chase me out too, but he didn't. He just started teaching to those of us who stayed around. I haven't heard that kind of teaching from anyone in my life. The word straight from the Son of God.
Do I believe Jesus did the right thing? Absolutely. Can you imagine someone selling fake Gucci bags in front of the church while the praise team is singing? No, you can't. You would have run those folks out of there. This was the Son of God seeing someone disrespecting his Father's house. I would have taken those cords and, if you ask me, Jesus took it easy on them.
Jesus was teaching in the temple and being challenged by the religious leaders of the area. Soon, the chief priests saw that Jesus would be a potential problem to the way they were viewed in the community. With Jesus meeting every challenge posed by the religious leaders, the chief priests met to figure out what could be done to silence him.
When Jesus came into town, we didn't know exactly what to expect. He has a reputation, but we didn't know he was going to do what he did. Knocking over tables, whipping people out of the temple, talking to our people. We didn't expect any of that. It was looking more and more like he was going to stick around a little too long. And we didn't need to have him around poisoning the minds of our people with his stories. So we started planning to make sure that we silenced him once and for all.
We needed the people to see him as a threat. We needed them to see that Jesus being on the streets was dangerous. We made sure that the public saw his actions in the temple as violent. Then telling people he's the Son of God? That was easily a blasphemous statement.
You could tell that cleansing the temple shifted the attitudes of some of the people in town, since they started looking at us differently. I just didn't know how drastic that shift would be.
I had no idea they'd be plotting on Jesus like that, spreading those lies.
Saying you're the Son of God can be blasphemous, and the people of the land needed to see that. The chief priest and I met, and we decided that he needed to be brought to justice. We could use that in mounting a defense that would see that Jesus would be silenced forever.
We were prepared to have him arrested, but didn't know where Jesus would be or what he looked like. Luckily, we were able to have an ally in one of his disciples, Judas.
Judas was agreeable and passionate about helping us out. We found him to be an asset, even though it seemed like he was. Judas had a passion that made him like a man possessed, like he was taken over by a spirit. Anyway, Judas told us that he would help us. We made our plans, and we parted ways.
With the plan in place, Judas went back to being a disciple, pretending that everything was okay. Meanwhile, Jesus was putting things in motion for one of the most iconic moments in our faith.
Passover! Man, we had no idea what was going to happen.
Some of us went ahead and prepared the space for Passover according to what Jesus told us to do.
We were all eating and enjoying ourselves. Then Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." Man, it got loud in there. And I was looking around trying to see who was going to be the one that did it. They were going to catch these hands that same night. One of you will betray me. I know who it wasn't. I laid back with Jesus. Of course, now I know why Judas went missing.
After the noise died down, Jesus took bread, broke it, and said, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." I had no idea how beautiful it was until after.
After a hymn, the disciples accompanied Jesus to the Mount of Olives, where he took 3 of his disciples, Peter, James, and John. Jesus prayed so hard that his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground.
You could feel the stress Jesus was under when he went off to pray by himself. I had no idea what the source of that stress was.
We tried to stay awake. You'd think I wouldn't be able to sleep since Jesus told me I'd deny him before the rooster crows. Me? Anyway, Jesus told us 3 times to stay awake while he was praying in the distance. He wasn't pleased when he caught us sleeping. Then he let us know his betrayal was coming.
Listen, I was just doing my job. Caiaphas told me to follow Judas and make sure that we arrested the right man. Judas did his job. He went up to Jesus and identified him with a kiss. All I had to do was arrest him.
It was scary. Watching Jesus be taken away was never what I would have imagined.
Everything went according to Caiaphas' plan. Well, everything except the mishap with my...
Did you really cut his ear off?
Yeah, and I'd do it again. That man was trying to take Jesus away. You think I'm gonna let him put his hands on him, bro? I left a piece of him on the ground. His ear would still be there if Jesus hadn't healed him.
After did. We've been following Jesus publicly for quite some time. We thought they'd come for us, so we ran away and hid. We should have stayed by his side.
Jesus was off to stand trial before the Sanhedrin. They mounted a defense that included charges of working on the Sabbath, through healing people, sorcery, and his claim to being the Messiah.
We wanted to make sure that the charges brought against Jesus would stick. I watched as each charge was presented, and Jesus stood there, silent.
He was indignant. We presented case after case, and Jesus was completely, totally silent. All they could do was make the crowd angry and hungry for blood. Every time a person was testifying, their whole case fell apart because the lies came out. Jesus should have been set free from that point, but they were hungry for blood.
Even though the chief priests couldn't find any solid proof of their claims, Jesus was labeled as blasphemous. As Jesus was progressing towards his ultimate punishment, Peter was finding out that the words spoken by Jesus were coming true. He had run into a crowd of people who were trying to see if Peter knew Jesus.
Okay, so we were just sitting around in the courtyard. We were trying to stay warm because it was kind of cold outside.
Then a light hit the side of this guy's face, and I thought maybe I had seen him with Jesus one time.
It was kind of hard to move around Jerusalem without seeing or hearing about Jesus.
So I asked him if he was with the Nazarene Jesus.
He said, I don't know him.
Then she said, you are also one of them.
The guy said, I am not.
So we stepped away and had thought maybe we got it wrong.
Then we started talking to the crowd, and we thought maybe the guy was lying.
I mean, he did look like one of those guys with Jesus.
We thought he was lying.
It was upsetting me and my homegirl.
So we went to the crowd one last time to see if he was one of Jesus' guys.
I guess he got sick of us.
He yelled, I don't know what you're talking about.
Just yelling and cussing.
Then he ran after we heard a rooster crow.
He was crying and all that.
But why would he cuss at us?
That is disrespectful.
I mean, if you can't go to trial without being cussed at, where can you go?
Did you deny knowing Jesus?
I never, in a million years, would have thought I would. I don't know what came over me. I would die for Jesus, but I wouldn't claim him. You have no idea how unforgivable I thought that was. How could I betray my Lord like that? I felt like I was no better than Judas.
As Peter wrestled with the guilt of his betrayal, another could not live with his decision.
Judas came to us and gave us the silver bag. He was saying he had betrayed innocent blood. That ain't our problem. He made his own decision. I thought he could live with what he did. I guess he couldn't. He took his own life after that conversation.
Do you agree that Jesus was innocent? Judas didn't have to carry that guilt for the rest of his life. Forgiveness can be a powerful thing. I really wish he could have experienced it.
While the disciples were dealing with their own fears, Jesus was facing the very fate that he prayed his Father would take from him. Jesus was in front of Pilate, awaiting his sentence.
I warned him. Man, I spoke to Pilate about his decision before he was face to face with Jesus. I had this dream, see, that my husband was gonna try an innocent man. And I didn't want him to have anything to do with that. Yeah, he just didn't listen to me.
We persuaded Pilate to follow our instructions because we had convinced the crowd to see that Jesus was deserving of death.
I know we said that we were excited to see Jesus when he came into town, but the chief priest made a good argument. Maybe he really does use evil magic.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't the Son of God like he said he was. I mean, how do you really know that the miracles Jesus was performing were from God? I mean, the chief priest said that Jesus was dangerous. Why not listen to them? They're the chief priests.
So this crowd was outside screaming, "Crucify him!" And I thought they were talking about me. I mean, look at me. I literally look like a guilty man. I plead guilty and everything, and they still decided to set me free and send Jesus to the cross. I was like, man, what does that do that made him that man? That man was innocent, though.
They were putting an innocent man to death just because they didn't want to see him teaching the truth to the people. Jesus went from being loved to being put to death by the very people who cheered for him.
He deserved to die.
Yeah, he deserved to die.
I've been a criminal my whole life. There's one thing that I know. Jesus was an innocent man who was put to death.
Yes, an innocent man was about to meet a penalty he did not deserve. The Son of God was about to pay a price no other person on earth could pay. However, the next moments would both be necessary and excruciating to witness.
It never got easier watching my son grow up. I knew the day would come when Jesus would be taken away from me. I knew his purpose. He was sent by God to die for the sins of the entire world, regardless of who you are. What I didn't know was how hard it would be to see the purpose carried out.
Have you ever seen someone get lashes with a whip with bones in it? The bone fragments grip onto the skin and rip it off. What you're usually left with is a back that has rips on it, instead of the usual lashes that are left behind.
They placed a crown of thorns onto his head. The thorns scraped his head so bad that the blood was running down his face. My son was so battered and bruised that I couldn't see any part of his body that wasn't covered in blood. He looked so weak, so tired.
They marched Jesus down the road to Golgotha. They made him carry his own cross and paraded him around the city. The people were screaming, "Crucify him," as he walked. He was so weak that he fell under the weight of the cross at one point.
Thank God for Simon. He saw that my son had fallen and carried the cross the rest of the way. The way the soldiers were looking at Jesus, it looked as if they were proud of what they had done. Horrible.
The sound of a person as a nail is being pierced in their flesh is excruciating. Each bang brings about a new sound of suffering no one could imagine. If that would have been the end, it would have been too much.
Jesus had whips and tears on his back, pressed against an old rugged cross. He had nails in his flesh, and his weight was being supported by being attached to the cross. I couldn't keep looking at him, though. It hurt too much.
The soldiers continued to mock him. They sold his clothes and gave him sour wine as he suffered up there. They broke his legs and pierced his side as if he wasn't suffering enough. The people around continued to cheer as my Lord continued to suffer.
His final words are etched in my mind.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing.
He said, "Woman, here is your son." To her. And then to me, "Here is your mother."
There was one on the cross who was repentant. He asked that my son remember him, and my son responded by saying, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
I heard him say, "Eli, Eli, lima sabachthani."
I am thirsty.
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Then, with one final breath, my son, God's son, died on that cross.
Jesus Christ, the one and only Son of God, has died on the cross. His blood covered the ground where his body remained suspended in the air, held up by nails. He didn't even have a burial plot. Luckily, there was an ally that would come out and provide a safe space for Christ's body to rest.
As a member of the Sanhedrin, I strongly oppose the crucifixion of my Lord and Savior. While I didn't make my identity as Christ's student public, I have always been in awe and service of Jesus. I knew that I would be outnumbered by the others in the vote. However, I also knew that I could make sure that the body of my Lord would have a tomb worthy of a king. I knew that because it was my tomb.
Their plan complete, Caiaphas and the chief priests had succeeded in making sure that Jesus Christ met his death. They schemed and lied their way to a conviction that led to Christ giving up his spirit on Calvary. However, what they meant for destruction of Christ's ministry, God used to elevate his kingdom.
I have been following Christ's ministry at a distance for some time. To see the earthquake and the tearing of the veil, and Jesus was truly my Lord. I believe he was the Son of God.
Do you believe that you're responsible for killing the Son of God?
My son is incredible. He died on the cross for you, for me, for the people we like, the people we don't like. My son, as powerful as he is, he knew his fate and allowed his death to occur. Jesus is the very definition of obedience. I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy to know that God blessed me to be the mother to his son. Jesus really is the Savior of the world.
You keep saying is when talking about Jesus. Why is that?
My Jesus, the beginning and the end, my creator and my friend, full of mercy, full of grace, come fill this place. Spark a fire in my heart, let your word be where I start. Guide my feet beyond the shore, Lord, I want more. You are the one, the one, the one, the one. You are the one, the one, the one, the one. Mountains move at your command, every knee bows as you stand. For my life you paid it all, your name I call. Jesus, you are the one, the one, the one, the one. You are the one, the one I need, the one, oh, the one. You are the one, the one, the one, the one. Jesus, my strong tower, my defender, hope for all. Jesus, light in darkness, peace in distress, saving power. Oh, Jesus, my strong tower, my defender, hope for all. strong tower, my defender, hope for all. Oh, Jesus, light in darkness, peace in distress, saving power. You are the one, the one, the one, the one. You are the one that saves me, the one that raised me, the one.